Hi there, this video is about opacity masking. So in Illustrator, I have created a very large type box and I've typed in my text. It's in Futura 142, it's medium style. I have also got a few textures to work with that I'm going to use as an opacity mask. So in opacity masking, we internally affect the object with a texture or with some other pattern so that we can see partially through the object. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select a file that I have open. I'm going to press Command C to bring that image up onto the clipboard, and I'm going to use it on texture on type. So I need to open up my transparency panel. I'll pull it off and I'm going to go to the flyout menu, show options, and you can see now that I've selected that type area box, it's showing up in the icon area. I can double click and of course my image disappears because the black is showing up as a completely 100% black mask. In masking, black conceals, white reveals. Now I've got my texture on the clipboard. It's ready to be pasted in. So I will press Command V, which is going to bring in my texture. And as you saw in the texture, it's mostly black. So you're not really seeing very much of the words because this texture only has very small bits of white. If I'm worried that the texture isn't as visible, or the text isn't going to be as visible as I'd like, I can invert the mask. So you can see that I've inverted the mask and now I'm moving that texture around. So you're seeing that there's a tiny bit of texture on this text. Sometimes that's all I need. So I'm going to commit to this by double clicking to get out of the opacity mask, and I'm going to create a rectangle. I'm going to make it another color because I want to see what this opacity mask is doing. Now the object that I've created, that rectangle, is showing up above my texture or my texture on type. If I slide it below, you'll be able to see how effective or not the texture or the opacity mask is on that text. So without it, it would just be flat black. With it, there is a tiny bit of texture on that text. To get back into the opacity mask, I can double click and move inside, and you can see I'm moving the texture around. Super interesting because I can make this smaller. I'm going to press Option and pull out a duplicate. I can bring in a bunch of different textures, so I'll show you how to do that. Here is another texture, Command C to copy it to the clipboard, go back to my file, Command V to paste it in, and you can see what the texture is doing here. If I take invert mask off, you can see what's happening. If I change the opacity of the mask to a lower opacity or higher opacity, invert the mask, really interesting stuff that you can do with this masking. So there are a few different files in here, and I'm just moving them around to see if there's any way that I can get something that I like out of this. I'm zooming out and I'm going to see how large that file is. So this is the one that has the brush marks on it, and I'm going to bring it back dead center here. So this is what I've accomplished with this one. If I'm happy with it, I commit to it and I jump right back out. I can change the color of my text. So here we are changing the color of the text. So it's not just for creating textures like folded paper on a poster to make it look like it was folded up. It's not just for creating textures on really flat two-dimensional objects. It's for creating new graphics for typography, like this one. Anything that you want to do. You can bring in textures, you can bring in patterns as well. So that is opacity masking.